Today we're going to do Science Chapter 2, Section 2. Living things need energy. So last lesson we learned about abiotic and biotic factors. So biotic, living, abiotic, non-living. And we also learned about the different levels of environmental organization. So at the end of today's lesson, you should be able to describe the functions of producers, consumers, and decomposers in an ecosystem. Distinguish between a food chain and a food web. Explain how energy flows through a food web. And describe how the removal of one species can affect the entire food web. So producers, of course, are the organisms that use sunlight directly to produce their food, to make their own food. They do this using a process called photosynthesis. Consumers, they're the ones that consume things, so they eat other organisms. And decomposers, they break things down. So these organisms get energy by breaking down dead organisms. So decomposers, consumers, and producers. You need to know the difference between the three. So here is the photosynthesis example explained. So living things get their energy either from the sun or from eating or other organisms that get their energy from the sun. So sunlight is the source of energy for almost all living things. Producer, again, uses the energy in the sunlight to make its own food. A consumer, an example would be this black-tailed prairie dog, which is an herbivore, meaning he eats only plants. He eats seeds and grass in the grasslands of western North America. And in this ecosystem, we would have a coyote, who is a carnivore, meat eater. All of these prairie dogs in a colony watch for their enemies, such as coyotes, hawks, and badgers. And occasionally, a prairie dog is killed and eaten by a coyote. Circle of life. It has to happen. And then continuing on with that, we have within this same ecosystem, a turkey vulture, which is a scavenger. He's the consumer. He may eat some of the dead coyotes' leftovers, and a scavenger literally picks the bones clean. And then finally, we have decomposer. Any prairie dog remains not eaten by the coyote or by the turkey vulture are broken down by bacteria, which are decomposers, and also fungi that live in the soil. So you can see everything plays its part. So with this, we have a food chain. This is a diagram that shows how energy in food flows from one organism to another. Think of it like a chain link fence. One link, another link, another link, another link. Very simple. And then a food web is a diagram that shows the feeding relationships between organisms in an ecosystem. I like to think of this kind of like a spider web. It goes in all directions. Very strong structure, relates back. So food chain, simple. One to the other, to the other, to the other. Food web, all of the different relationships. Make sure you go to BrainPop and watch the video on food chains. Also complete the quiz, and then watch the study jams. by clicking on food webs and food chains here as well. This would be an example of a food web, and you can see all of the different things. Look at all the little arrows that are related back and forth, showing the energy that each creature gets from each thing. So an energy pyramid, this is a triangular diagram that shows an ecosystem's loss of energy, which results as energy passes through the ecosystem's food chain. Please come back and watch the brain pop on the energy pyramid and complete that quiz. And then at the end of the lesson, if you have time, there are also brain pops on fungi and bacteria, which would be your decomposers. So come back and watch those as well. So here's an example of an energy pyramid. And you can see we start out at the top. And then these animals would eat these animals, which in turn eats whatever this is here. So you could have several layers to this. These producers get their energy straight from the sun. So the animals that eat the producers are getting their energy by eating the plants. It get their energy from the sun. These animals eat these animals, which ate these producers. So they're also getting a little bit of this energy from the sun. So as you go up this pyramid, you have not only a decreasing number of organisms that could survive within this area, you also have decreasing amounts of energy which come from the sun. Meaning these animals don't directly eat these producers. They eat animals that eat the producers. So the video back at the very beginning of the lesson relates to the gray wolves in this section. It explains everything in detail. Please go back and watch this video for this lesson to make sense. So the gray wolves, basically in synopsis here, were brought back to the Yellowstone National Park in 1995. And they restored the natural energy flow in the area and brought populations of different animals back into balance. They even changed the flow of the rivers. Yes, I know that sounds very weird, and it's not going to make sense until you go back and watch the video. That's why it's important that you go back and watch that video at the beginning of this lesson. So overall, we need to know that there needs to be a balance within ecosystems. All organisms in a food web are important for the health and balance of all other organisms in the food web. So if one thing gets off balance, it throws everything off. For example, when there were no gray wolves left in Yellowstone National Park, it threw everything off, even the flow of the rivers. So everything within the ecosystem is important. There must maintain a balance. So this is the end of lesson 2.2. Tomorrow you're going to come back and watch the Bill Nye about food webs. And then our next lesson will be types of interactions.